Okay, so our keynote speaker for tonight is an established hip-hop artist who also specialises in spoken word poetry. At just 24 years of age, he's made a name of himself as a pretty unique and versatile artist because he not only writes, but he also produces and mixes a majority of his music. And he's performed along artists such as Public Enemy, Exhibit, Mark Gonzalez, and in 2009 he was selected as the National Support Act for Hip Hop Artist NAS during his first Australian tour. So what's amazing is he's done all of this while simultaneously completing a degree in law and arts at the University of Western Sydney. So a few of you might have heard his latest single, One. It was recently featured on Triple J. And American rapper KRS-One described him as he is hip hop, and he also runs various leadership and mentoring programs which aim to promote confidence, independence and self-empowerment. And what's really interesting is he goes to rural areas in Australia and he challenges youth to express themselves through hip hop, and that's a really unique and amazing concept. So, ladies and gentlemen, Sukhdeep.
वाहिगुरू जी का खालसा वाहिगुरू जी की फतेह.
वाहिगुरू जी का खालसा वाहिगुरू जी की फतेह.
I'd first like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land, upon whose land we are gathered here today. To pay respects to elders past and present. I want to just briefly add a little bit to that introduction before I get into it, and I think I will have a tendency to ramble quite a bit, so Sankar, please kind of keep me contained. But I have a lot of stories I want to share with you, and where I am at now is I'm at a point where I'm continuing my journey as a professional artist and musician. Now that I've graduated from university, it's taken a lot of my energy and time to really pursue what is in my heart. And I feel like I'm at a point where the journey is just about to really kickstart and take a whirlwind towards hopefully brighter future. So what I do is I'd like to say I'm an MC. I'm an MC and not a rapper. I think there's quite a distinction, and an MC prides themselves on being able to take you on a journey while they have the stage or the microphone. So what I want to do right now is I'd like to take you on a journey with me. What I want you to do is I want you to look at my fingertips, because what I'm doing right now is on each of my fingertips there are stars. I see the night sky. I want you to visualize it. And what I'm doing with my fingers is I'm reshaping constellations with my fingertips. I'm careful when my finger slips. I'm holding tight, trying to get a grip of what it really is, but losing consciousness like a sedative. Many say life's a trick, but man, it's all relative. Rappers ain't in tune now with the fifth element, cause rhyming big words doesn't make you intelligent. It's bigger than that. It's got more to do with relevance. Speaking from the soul, cause that's where the true essence is. I'm driven by my belly cause I'm hungry as hell like Machiavelli. Flowing through my veins is where you'll find the evidence. Look into my eyes now, where the real message is. They tried to weigh my heart but it defies all measurements. I figure it's divine intervention being prevalent, so when I speak it's like an act of paying reverence. Them preachers can block you from what the true vision is, so I close my eyes to understand what religion is. Studying the world's lessons whenever I reminisce. I must time the strike right, cause chances are hit and miss. I'm careful of temptation when I see your liquor lips, cause those at the top fall the hardest like Icarus. Rhyming to the rhythm is the tool of a lyricist, so I speak till I can't breathe like I broke a rib. Now it's time to finish this. El Fresh the name, not a postman, but just put my stamp on the game. Thank you. A lot of people ask why El Fresh the line, where did that come from? I want to explain part of the name because it'll form the foundation of the rest of what I'm going to be talking about. But when I was younger and I started writing and recording 10 years ago, I got given the name Fresh by peers, and I wanted to redefine the title that was given to me. So I broke it down into an acronym, which we did today as well in PX2 with our own names. And so I did this when I was about 14, 15. And at that time I wanted to define what fresh meant. So for me it's forever rising, exceeding sudden hardships. That was what I wanted to dedicate my being to always be the type to overcome, to be the type to pursue and push through all obstacles and struggles to be able to get to where I wanted to get to. So that's going to form the foundation of a lot of the stories I'm going to tell you. I was told this quote by a dear friend of mine: plant your roots deep into the ground, but build your castles in the sky. And when I went to this space in southwest Sydney called the Street University, which was a youth space that was just starting up in an area that's under-resourced in community, in terms of community resources and youth spaces. And I volunteered my time there to give back to community, to learn and build skills that I thought would help me as an artist on my journey, but also to help empower others as well. And we did an exercise based on visualization where I created a mind map and I placed my name in the middle, and I put up the different ideas and visions of things that I would like to achieve. And this was the first time I ever did visualization. And there were a number of things that I put up on there, one of which was to make an impact in the hip-hop community, to create music that was socially and politically, where they had topics that were socially conscious and politically conscious, but to also create music that was powerful in a sense of the way Tupac's song Dear Mama is powerful. Like, you don't need to be a hip-hop artist or fan to appreciate the emotion in a song by an artist who's written a song about their mother and the love that he has for his mother. So I wanted to create powerful music like that. I wanted to create music that would inspire other people to better their lives and to be in positions that would allow them to grow. And within a year, I could safely say that I ticked off a lot of those things. Within a couple of years, ticked off even more. And for me, in creating those visions and those ideas, I always kept at the forefront my foundation, my roots, what made me, or what makes me who I am, and where that comes from. And to keep those values close to me and not to compromise them on my journey. In breaking down some of those ideas, the entrenching myself in the hip-hop community in Australia is quite a challenge and has been quite a challenge. The hip-hop community in Australia is predominantly overrun by white males telling stories to other white people. There's very few successful hip-hop artists in the Australian scene that are from diverse backgrounds. So that was always going to be a challenge, but understanding the roots of hip-hop. Hip-hop is a culture that is founded in community. It is founded in and was created by individuals who needed creativity to put themselves in more positive positions when they were rejected by mainstream society. So I knew that if I carried that essence, I could become an undeniable factor if I carried that essence, which I also believed in before I was introduced to hip-hop, those values. And in 2009, I got selected to tour with Nas, who is a hip-hop legend. A lot of artists who start out writing are inspired by his works. So to tour with him is an honor. And I did this before ever releasing any material. I haven't released an album yet, haven't put out official product in stores. And there were a lot of artists in the Australian scene who were very offended that they got overlooked, but wanted to know who I was. and when they found out who I was, were either excited or very upset and angry still. An example of that was on the tour. We were just about to go on the tour, and I got told that I was selected. I couldn't be happier, because also on the tour was a whole bunch of other hip-hop legends, the best hip-hop DJ in the world, the best freestyle rapper MC in the world was on that tour as well. And so I was really excited. Then the next day, the person who had put me in a position to be on this tour called me up and said, "Hey, I need to talk to you about something. You might be a little bit upset, but let's talk about it. Come see me." I went to see him, and he was really nervous, and he's the type of person not to be nervous in general conversation. And he said, "Hey, I just got a call from the promoter, and they said they're not going to put you on the tour because they don't want you to wear a turban. And I'm not too sure how you feel about that, but we can do it, but you can't wear a turban." And I said straight away, "All right, we'll tell them I'm not going on the tour. I'm not doing it. There'll be other opportunities." And it surprised me because as an artist, I look up to, well, I don't look up to a person like Nas, but and that's not to be demeaning in any sense, but that's just, I admire the skill level, but I don't look up to individuals in that, idol kind of way. But there's a lot to learn from, what he's done. And from his music and knowing his music, I found it quite surprising that would come down, because he understands the essence of hip-hop, or so I've come to know. And so my friend said, "Okay, all right, I'll tell them." The next day he called me up and he said, "Look, they scrap that. You're still going on tour. It's all good." So I ended up going on tour. And then what happened, we did 4 shows. We did Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, Perth. We did Perth, we flew from Perth, which went well, and then we flew to Melbourne. And Melbourne, we were told, was going to be the toughest in terms of trying to break into the hip-hop community, because it's the most, I suppose you could say, it has a very strong conservative element to it. And so we went to Melbourne, and as soon as we got to the venue, the sound man there walked out. We introduced ourselves. You have to go to sound check before a show to make sure your stuff's all sounding good. And when you're the support act, no one really cares who you are. They want to check the international artists first, and they give them preference. So you got Nas, then you go Charlie Tuna, and then you go Supernatural, and then you go Cuba, and then you go the Melbourne support, and then you go us. So everyone else was accommodated for. We got there. The sound man had never seen me before, had never seen my people before. The team that were with us looked us up and down and said, "I know a lot of people in the hip-hop scene, but I don't know you guys. Nice to meet you." And I got a weird vibe from him, just the way he kind of said that. We did the show, and he did almost everything to sabotage our performance. The sound was terrible, equipment was failing. He came on stage as we were performing to try and cut our set length. And I didn't know this because I had my eyes closed when I was performing the last song. But and I saw the video footage back, but he came right up and was like, on stage, like, cut it, cut it, cut it. And we're in the middle of a performance, like, that's unprofessional. We got off stage and he's swearing at us. "You guys are unprofessional. I'm gonna get you kicked off tour, rah, 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 rah." And I go back to my hotel because I didn't want to cause any more trouble. Not that I had been causing trouble, but any assumed trouble. I went back to the hotel, got a call from a friend, the friend who was overseeing the tour. He said, "Hey, we just got a call from the promoter. They said you guys are asking for drink cards and alcohol and trying to crash everyone's riders." And I'm like, "I don't drink. I don't need drink cards. Where's this coming from?" And he's like, "I don't know, the promoter's just saying this is what's getting reported back. And they might kick you off the tour." And so again, I was like, the hell, we're in the middle of a tour. Like, I just turned 21, this is like a week before this is supposed to be my celebration. And but we still continued, and we kept going, and we stayed on the tour because he did the same thing to Nas. He went up on stage, was like, cut it, cut it, cut it. And so everyone was like, well, he must be mad, man. And didn't take him seriously after that. But the point of both of those stories were that I had set the goal for what I wanted to do. I wanted to make an impact in the hip hop community, and I was supporting one of the biggest hip hop artists ever on my first national tour without releasing product. So immediately the entire scene got to know who I was, and automatically put me into a particular spotlight. But not once did I compromise my values or my beliefs, because that makes me who I am. So I kept going. I'll touch on one more story because there's a lot more that I want to try and get through. But the other story is linked to, I want to make music that impacts the lives of others in a positive way. And in PX2 before, I mentioned that I have worked with a lot of performers, like the guy who was on X Factor that was part of the audition. I forgot his name. Chris Renee. There's one particular story. A young person I say young person, it's a clinical term, but a person who had walked into the space that I was working in Southwest Sydney, same age as me, and I know he's been using ice and has been for a long time. He comes from a dysfunctional family at home, doesn't know his parents, immigrated from New Zealand, so doesn't access any social security, settling, has no benefits. He engaged with the space. We started working on music, which was a positive influence, and then he stopped engaging with the space for 6 months, and then he came back 6 months later, and I was excited to see him, and because he genuinely a really good, kind-hearted person, and we had a great conversation. But as he was leaving, he told me he was homeless now, and I said, oh wow, okay, well, let's do something about it. And over the process of, I think it was 2 months, it seemed like forever, but because he didn't have access to any benefits being a New Zealand citizen, plus he didn't have his passport, he didn't have any documentation, he couldn't access any homeless, or many homeless, or organizations that cater to homeless people, because there's such a criteria box that you have to fit in. So for 2 months, our organization really tried to help him get on his way, and put him in a great space. And eventually we did. He ended up getting employment and his own unit, and started doing his thing. He also got clean. But the process was through hip-hop music and our conversations over the period of, once he came back, when he first engaged with the space to when he finally left, about 2 years. And I remember one particular day. He'd always been the type of individual who would love the idea of music, but would struggle when it came to recording. He just didn't have the knack for it, but he would work the hardest at it anyway. So he kept doing it. But when we were in the studio, he would get super nervous, and that would impede how he would go. But outside of the studio, when he would show me things, he was fine. I remember one day we had this conversation, and I think it was a breakthrough moment, because we had reflected on his whole life, and I did this exercise with him to channel his inner warrior, and it involved him standing on the corner outside on the street, and school had just finished, and it involved him channeling all his deepest, darkest frustrations, and he yelled out on the street just loud, and everyone stopped. He was like, oh, and then kept walking on their way. And it was quite a long process, but we did this thing, and he went straight back into the space, walked right into the studio. There's a guy in there who was recording, who's, you know, in terms of like the local scene, is, you know, a really good artist and doesn't need advice from anyone. He just needs time to develop. And he sat down and became the session producer and was like, yeah, so that was good, but I think you need to do this and maybe change this and try this, and, you know, and just really took control of that session and became the leader. And it was the first time I saw this artist go, yeah, okay, all right, you know, and take on advice. And from that point on, he really became one of the people who was in charge of the space. Eventually he moved back to New Zealand to try and reconnect with his family, still clean, and I've been in touch with him, and he's now working. He found that there's not a single youth space in the area that he lives in that allows free access to a recording studio. So with his money, he's setting up a studio in his garage to open up to people. And that stemmed from initially just being able to create music that he would respect and keep with him, and then us engaging in dialogue, and then him doing his thing and fulfilling part of his vision. Another lesson I learned was to be brutally honest with yourself. There was an exercise I did when I was just after probably a year after we'd done the mind map exercise, where I was asked to reflect on why I really want to pursue music. Like, if I have an ambition to create and generate wealth, if it's to have an image, or if it's to satisfy ego, if it's for material things, if it's to prove something to someone, like, know in your heart if that's part of your motivation to do what you're doing. Don't deny yourself by saying that's not true. Understand that it's there, but don't let that become the driving force. I've met a ton of different young people who are trying to be artists, and they say, you know, I want to be big like Jay-Z and Kanye West, and I want to earn a lot of income. And after about a year, when they struggle, because it is hard to do it, for just even to start, within a year they stop. And it's like, okay, well, I kind of knew that was going to happen if that was your sole driving force, that you wanted material wealth and outcomes for self. Hip-hop is not the form to be doing that in. It can be brutal. And so, be brutally honest with yourself. And we did this exercise where the key point that I remember was understand, or know, everyone is corruptible. Know at what point, when things are offered to you, that you will become the corrupt, so that when it is in front of you, you can step back and walk away, and not, become that person. So the example was, the example for me is in the hip hop scene. I know what I'm about. I know who I am. So when I go to a show and there are other artists there who are known for drug use or alcohol abuse, and backstage is, they have all their things to get them comfortable for the show, that's not even, doesn't even cross my mind once. I'm not there for that. I know what I'm there for. I know what my duty is. I know what my role is. And I'm bigger than this particular moment. For me, it's not just about trying to put on a good show. There's more to it than that. And yeah, trying to get through all of this as quick as I can. Brutally honest, I think it really comes down to that. Stay hungry, stay humble. Stay hungry, it links with the honesty. Know what it is that drives you. I know I have a burning desire in my chest to really want to get to a particular point with the music, and it stems from, I had this conversation earlier with someone, but it stems from, I want to prove to myself and to the world that if I can succeed in an industry that is perceived as very commercialist, materialist, where you have to compromise yourself in order to succeed. If I can succeed in that industry without compromising myself, by also speaking and performing songs that have value and substance, that are beneficial to people when they hear it, that adds positive value to their lives. If I can succeed in that industry, then there's no excuse for anyone else to have to compromise themselves to be able to do it. And it's really inspired by what I see in the Punjabi music industry. I'm not a big follower of the Punjabi music industry, but when I do flick on the television, my parents place onto the dish and see the new artists. So when I do see what's shared around on YouTube, I don't like what I see, particularly when the artists are sick. They compromise a lot of their values, or what our values are meant to be in order to have to build the platform to get to where they want to get to. And to me, I can't live in myself to do that. It's not part of my fabric, it's not part of my being. So if I can succeed in that industry, no one else has the excuse of, well, I had to do that in order to get to that, and then be able to tell people this. That's what's right. The stay humble element is, always be a student, always be open to criticism. I remember the first year of working in the community service, I stuffed up countless events. I don't have a community work background. I engaged with this space as a musician, so I made a lot of mistakes, but I learned from them. And people, staff who were then I saw as family, because we had this really close unit, would criticize me the most to make sure that I didn't make the mistake again, because they cared about me. And I had to be open to the criticism. The other side of staying humble is opportunities arise out of you being open to other people's thoughts and ideas. One thing that has developed out of my music is an initiative. I'm not too sure if it's an initiative, I'm not too sure what it is, it's still taking shape. But an idea called the Power to the Peaceful Community, which began as a way to connect with people outside of performances and outside of music, so that we can have dialogue as human beings and not as an artist and as a fan, because I don't like that. But the Power to the Peaceful came out of people wanting to have that interaction and that dialogue, because they knew I was about more than just the music. So I started this t-shirt design, which had, you might have seen it, a fist and a peace sign behind it, and it says Power to the Peaceful down the back. I've been wearing a hoodie all day. And people would buy a shirt or a hoodie at a show or from online, take a photo of themselves wearing it in spaces that were meaningful to them, and share their thoughts and ideas about how they achieve peace in their lives, and also what they want to see in their community in relation to peace. And so now there's this online gallery of people who have shared their photos and their thoughts and ideas, and despite the differences and where they come from, there's so many similarities in it. The extension of that then came from, I was quite content to continue with that process of leaving it to be an online gallery. I knew it would become something else later, I didn't know what. But people would then say to me, you know what, it needs to be bigger than that. The idea is great, but you really need to take it to another level. And I said, well, what can I take it to? I'm trying to do to the music. I don't have the energy to start up a new thing at this point in time. But I'm open to hearing what people say and how they can contribute. And people want to contribute to community, to create a more peaceful community and society. And so a couple of people who have submitted to the gallery, we formed a little group, and it's mostly people in New South Wales and Victoria at this point in time. But they have set up now micro groups, people who live close together, who their only connection with each other is the t-shirt or the hoodie, have met up and have discussed how they can contribute directly to their communities, not through charities or through an organization, but how they can give time to be practical. And one of the initiatives that we're just about to get going with, which kind of comes from my experience in Melbourne, I started to contribute to, with a friend of mine who's really driving this, contribute to the Broadmeadows Detention Centre. We increasingly frustrated with the asylum seeker debate and refugee debate. We wanted to find out and hear the stories behind the people who are travelling to Australia. And so we went to the detention centre. So many beautiful people from a lot of different backgrounds, and they've come from different circumstances and hardship, and a lot of them have been in detention indefinitely for a long time, and others have just arrived. And then my friend started coordinating donations for them, because the clothing that they get, particularly for women from Islamic countries, is culturally inappropriate, the clothes that they get given. The shoes are torn, it's cold now in Melbourne, it's freezing. So it's not appropriate clothing, and it doesn't get replaced, so donations. And then for people who get released, she's coordinating furniture to deliver to people's houses that we pick up from donations. So from that, inspired by that, the people in the Power to the Peaceful community who are telling me they want to do more are now starting that up in Villawood, or trying to start that up in Villawood. And then we have some other people trying to start up initiatives with young people who are from refugee, asylum seeker backgrounds, now resettled in the community, doing particular art programs. And then we have people in Melbourne who want to do something for the homeless in their community. And it all stemmed from just being open to what people were saying in relation to the music and how they could better engage, and what they could do once they were inspired by a show or an idea, and it's now becoming practical. So that comes from the stay hungry, stay humble. I'm going to try to breeze through. The world is your classroom. Be a student always. Master your craft is a big one. Become the best that you possibly can be. There is no single moment in a day, or there is no day that doesn't go by where I'm not working on my craft, my artistry, freestyling in my head, rhythms, beats, writing lyrics, one line, two lines on my phone when it comes, thinking of concepts, ideas, just pops out, goes into the phone and gets saved. It really is just about mastering it to the point where you become undeniably good at what you're doing. Where people are, because people may approach you with a certain perception of you. When I get on stage, I've had audiences when they see me, they would laugh, not knowing what to expect. Oh, what's this dude doing? He's gonna rap, whatever. But as soon as I speak, they stop. People who are walking towards, and this is the thing I take the most pride out of, people who are walking to the bar say they stop and don't feel like drinking when I'm performing. And that to me is like, okay, well that's good, you're listening. But also it's taking you away from something which can be negative. So master your craft. I want to finish on, your team is your family. I've got an amazing team, a record label now, a band, a 7-member band, and just a bunch of different people who contribute. It's not me on my own anymore. The team really, and I'm so grateful to be in a position where I can build with people from all walks of life who resonate with the same message and idea, and who want to see the same things manifested, and who are really backing me to be a breakthrough. So treat them like your family, respect them, and once you find people that are great for building with, hold on to them and do what you can together. And the last thing, conquer your mind, conquer the world. Shri Guru Nanak Dev Ji from Japji Sahib, Manjit Japji. It always stays with me, just this idea of, and it really does come across in PX2, which is awesome. It's been a reaffirmation of a lot of principles, but the idea of, you are your own worst enemy. You are your own barrier, your own limitation. There have been countless reasons for me to stop doing what I'm doing. Reasons that, and obstacles that have really questioned my principles and really gotten to the core of why I exist. I've gotten to points where I have felt like giving up, like I really came this close. And for me, music is everything, and it really does, for me, link to my existence on this planet. So for me to say I came this close to giving up was almost me giving up on life. It has gotten that difficult, but I know that I have to keep going because I'm driven by something greater. I feel I'm driven by something greater. I've been thankfully given a talent and a blessing and a gift that I feel I must share with people. And it really is just pushing through those boundaries and those barriers to continue forth for your passion and what you believe in. And that's a little bit about my story to this point. And please, if you have questions, come up to me, speak to me the next couple of days or till tomorrow, or hit me up online, Facebook, whatever. And yeah, let's keep talking. And I've met so many amazing people here and people I've caught up with who are doing great things. So let's build. Let's keep going.
That's beautiful. Any questions? I know we're running late for time. This is quite an amazing presentation by Sukhdeep. Generally we have our sportsmen, Australian sportsmen that come here, or businessmen that actually achieve big things. But I think you've climbed higher mountains. And so, any questions before we say a word of thanks?
Just a quick one. Thanks for sharing your story. It's amazing. You've become an artist in a community that sometimes doesn't always appreciate people who are in the arts or outside of the, I suppose, the mainstream. How have you overcome issues with that?
It has been really tough. It has been one of the toughest things, and when I was younger I didn't understand why, and I would often put on performances and do shows and try to tell as many people as I knew within the community that this is what I'm doing. Although I do consider one of my weaknesses is being able to talk about myself and trying to sell myself to people that I'm working on. But I often got disheartened by the fact that no one from the community was at one of my shows. And many times I thought and questioned myself as to whether what I was doing was going to be in contradiction to what we're taught within our community. And as I got older I realized a lot of our foundation and our roots in our culture stems from music and poetry and folk music and dance. Like, we have such a strong artistic community that I wish I was in tune with as I started on my journey as an artist. It wasn't until I understood the history of hip-hop and the self-empowering nature of hip-hop, in the sense that the proper use of hip-hop is to use it to connect with your history and your legacy and your roots and your ancestry, so that you can communicate those stories and also your story. When I understood that, I was inspired to look up more of our people and learn more about the stories, and coming across poetry by Veer Singhji. And my dad, I had to say, Dad, when you go to India next, just buy me poetry books, Punjabi poetry books, classical stuff. And he would bring home a couple of books, and then I started to get educated. This is actually our foundation. We tell our stories orally as well. When you go to the Gurdwara, or when you go and when we're doing Kirtan, it's oral tradition. Our stories are passed down to us. When we hear about the stories of Guru Nanak Dev Ji through to Guru Gobind Singh Ji and Shaheeds and all the great people in our history, we're told these stories orally. That's what I do. I try to tell the story of my contemporary times, but also reflecting on those stories. So once I made that connection, it was like, okay, well, I know what I'm doing is right, and in my heart I feel it's right. Whether or not the community come to shows or not, I feel that in due time I'll be able to connect with my people more. And it was great. Respect to everyone who came to the last show. It was awesome. It was great to see.
Okay. Now I'd like to call to just Kira to say a few words of thanks.
Just a really quick thing, man. It's pretty much just reflecting on what you said. Just want to say a big thank you, because growing up, going through my late teenage years, Sikhism, hip-hop, or in reality just Sikhism and any music you saw on MTV, basically. It was mutually exclusive. You could never even think that life could ever go together in that way. You really broke it down for all of us. You've shown us that if you really want to do something, go out there and achieve it. And I think just massive thank you for that. And as you mentioned just then as well, a lot of us took the opportunity last month to come down and actually see you perform live. I really actually wanted you to actually sing it right now, but anyway, we saw you sing live, that the album called One. It was actually, it honestly, it was an amazing experience, and no pun intended, but it was one hell of a show. So,
Do you want a show tonight?
come on. How about we put it on YouTube so you sing live?
Got the video there. Sorry?
Is there a cable for... Oh, he's got his own karaoke. Sorry.
No, you're right.
You're not getting that to a sing.
Stop the beat there.
Before you started, this song is called Faithful, and it's my reflections on my community growing up in Southwest Sydney, but also reflecting on the values instilled in me from birth, growing up in a Punjabi Sikh family as well. So, yeah, let's do it. Press play. Let's do it. Yeah. Yeah, I said, why are you turning the music down for?
What do you do?
Hip hop is loud. Yeah, listen. Yo, the history's the future. It repeats like the barrel of a gun. Here it comes, full circle to hurt you, I never run. Some stare at the sun, trying to absorb the light. You turn their heads to the struggle and ignore the fight. I recognize the lives of our people on the street trying to eat too. I was taught my son to rap to beat you, so careful who you speak to, cause they tend to cling the leash to. Teach you harm and then unleash the beast in you. But I see the real in the eyes of those that you judge. Understand the plight of those that are addicted to drugs. See, a child is a child, we all starve the same, trying to evolve from rats to escape from this racing game. Taking aim at myself, I say faithful as hell. My ears to the streets, cause we got a story to tell. And best to listen, cause wisdom got me living to learn. Time to take a step back and give your people a turn. I stay faithful, though the road may be long. I stay faithful, in my belief to carry on. I stay faithful, though tomorrow may never come. Still I wait for the day we can return to the sun. I stay faithful, though the road may be long. I stay faithful, in my belief to carry on. I stay faithful, though tomorrow may never come. Still I wait for the day we can return to the sun. I stay faithful. Yeah. Listen. One, two. I stay faithful. Yeah, I live for today and not tomorrow. This life is a gift that'll return one day like it was borrowed. To the Most High, the Maker. You see, there is nothing greater to let go of it all and much in the cosmos. We all cling too tightly to what we don't need. So you rather watch that fella man bleed than to see him succeed. I wonder what drives it. When I look inside your eyes, I'm trying to find you. So we can speak man to man openly and understand that games and tricks are hiding behind a picture like a cameraman. Your inner vision's levitated. Listen closely to your heart's message and go out and say it. This life is too short, it only lasts a while. You learn a lot about a person when they let go and smile. They're sharing a moment with you if only for a second. Love and faith put together is a powerful weapon. I stay faithful, though the road may be long. I stay faithful, in my belief to carry on. I stay faithful, though tomorrow may never come. Sing it with me. I want you to say I stay faithful, right? I stay faithful, though the road may be long. I stay faithful, in my belief to carry on. I stay faithful, though tomorrow may never come. Still I wait for the day we can return to the sun. I stay faithful. Yeah, give yourself a round of applause one time.